this is Faye from the Home Salon Specialist. I'm just doing a little video today to talk about the pros and cons of working from home in your home salon. So, you know, why you might think it's a good idea to open a home salon, and it's worked really well for me. Doesn't suit everybody. You have to be quite motivated. So obviously if you need the kind of the day-to-day thing of going into somewhere else, getting a uniform on, and what's the word, just the day-to-day things, and somebody else telling you what to do so that you actually do it. And obviously it's not going to suit you, but if you're quite self-motivated, then no, from that point of view, I think working for yourself and from home works really well. So some of the good things about working from home are, let me have a think. So I have just written a few bits down because I've got a dreadful memory and I keep skipping backwards and forwards. So the flexibility. So the flexibility working from home, it's not just for the your own point of view. Obviously it's really flexible as the therapist, because say if you've got children or family or whatever it is, you can to a certain extent fit it around that. So you've got to take children to school, which is what I used to do when mine were younger, took them to school. So I could then start having clients come from sort of 9:30 onwards, and then finish it by 2:30. To go and pick them up from school, and then obviously a lot of clients want to come in the evening, so then work something else maybe out for the evening. So that works, that flexibility, and also you can book days out if you know you've got somewhere to go, e.g. going to like a school fete or whatever it is at a certain time. You know, you can schedule that in, whereas that might not be so easy if you work for somebody else, and it's not your business. So that flexibility is really good, and why I think a lot of women and mums particularly probably end up starting from home. So that's good from the therapist's point of view, but I also find it's really good from the client's point of view, the flexibility. Again, say you have a shop, you're not necessarily going to be able to start early or late, whereas I tend not to do it now because I'm really well established and don't tend to do early mornings anymore. But at one stage it suited me and the clients that came at the time to sometimes have to do really early mornings, say 7 o'clock, before they went to work. And also I still do 2 later evenings, so I might not finish till 8 on those 2 late evenings. So that means you've got flexibility, which you wouldn't necessarily have in a salon on the high street. Obviously some will stay open till later, and I know of some people from home salons, and I've done it in the past, where it's maybe coming up to Christmas and people have wanted their eyelashes done. You know, I might not finish work until I was 10. It's 10 o'clock, so that worked for both of us. So that's one of the really good cons to working from home. So another one is filling a niche. What I've found, especially with I would say male clients, is that a lot of the time they may feel a little bit nervous about, oh, my light's just gone off, let me just give that a poke. Oh, it's decided it's died. Oh well, just have a bit of a shadow. So male clients particularly like work coming to the home salon because you haven't got to think about, they can feel uncomfortable about coming to what looks maybe like a very feminine salon on the high street, especially as I specialise in male waxing. They're not going to particularly want to come often and sit on the sofa with a couple of younger ladies. People are going to feel awkward, and that's, I know why people have chose to come to me over other places, because they can just come to me. They haven't got to sit on the waiting room with anybody else wondering what they may or may not be having done. They just come in, have their waxing done, and off they go on their merry way, and they just feel more comfortable in it. And I also find that that there's quite a few different sorts of people, probably myself included, that quite like going to home salons, because I'm maybe not, I may have had a preconceived idea of salons being a little bit scary, of going to them in my past, and maybe feeling a bit judged, which I obviously didn't go to particularly nice salons, but whereas I would feel comfortable going and just meeting up with one person in their home salon. So that's another real good benefit of working from a home salon. Another really good one is working on your own terms. So I've worked for obviously other people in the past, I worked for another salon in the past. I really didn't like the way I often had to work. I had to push 3 people on a conveyor belt, which I really didn't like. I didn't like it from my point of view because I didn't even have a chance to go and have a quick wee or a drink of water or anything like that. And I really didn't like the fact that the clients, you were almost shoving them out of the door, you know, getting their shoe on for the next client to come in. And I understand that as a salon, that's how that had to be worked at the time for them to cover their bills, and I understand that, but that's why I haven't wanted to go down that road. I want to be able to do things my way so that I feel as though I'm giving the clients that come to me the very best that I can without having to make them feel as though they're on a bit of a conveyor belt, I suppose, really. Yeah, so I think that's an important one. So working for yourself, you can make sure that you're using the products that you really like to use. You're not going to have to, you know, like I've heard of people having to use not so good top products that people have maybe topped up with something else, all that sort of a thing. So I can choose what products I use, what covers I use, how often the linen is changed. I've worked places where the linen isn't changed very often. I personally felt that really wasn't hygienic, but that was what was needed at the time. I now work for myself at home. That isn't what's got to happen. I do it, you know, clean linen all the time and all nice and clean, and how I would like to do it. If you're a bit of a perfectionist, which I think it's a good idea to be, especially if you're working on people, then you haven't got to sort of par down what you would normally do. You can do exactly how you think is the right way to do it. So that's another really good thing about it. Another one is no time kind of getting to your salon. Obviously you've only got to shuffle down your stairs or into your back garden or wherever your treatment room might be. So that's fantastic. I mean, what I do tend to do is on a day where I'm working, I'll come down first thing as soon as my alarm goes off. I can turn my wax on and I go and get myself ready, and by the time my wax is then maybe an hour or so later is all melted, I'm good to go, and I've done everything I needed to do. I haven't had to. It's so nice not having to get on a bus and go somebody, get in the car, go somewhere. Obviously you're saving money as well because you're not having to pay for petrol, diesel, bus fare, whatever it is, leg power, cycling into your salon. So that's a real positive. So it cuts your hours down as well. You know, if you've usually spent half an hour to an hour getting to your place of work, you've got that added onto your day. So you can either have more clients for that, which is, you know, what I do. I would have had clients starting earlier and slightly later. But if you've literally worked till 8 o'clock in the evening, if you work away from home and then have to, you know, spend half an hour getting home, that makes your day a really long one. Whereas it's much more doable working from home. Yeah, I'm done at 8 o'clock. I can they go and have a cup of tea or some dinner if somebody's made me one, or if I've had a point earlier in the day, I can shove something in the slow cooker. Job's a good one. Right, so let's just have a look for, what did I put down as the other one? Relatively low startup costs and low overheads, which is obviously quite high on the list of benefits, really, to be fair. So, yeah, you obviously haven't got the same overheads as you'd have in a shop at all, so you can work less hours and earn more money, which is always a good thing. You've got less worry, so especially if you're starting out, you might not know, you might only have one qualification in something, you might have a very, very small client base. It's quite terrifying to start a salon, I would imagine. You've got lots of overheads, like your rent and your heating and your light and your whatever rubbish having to be taken away, all those sorts of things. That has got to be from day one when you start. Even if you've only got 2 clients a week, you're going to be paying for all those things. Whereas obviously if you have a home salon and you've only got 2 clients a week, which is probably what I started out with, it's not such a problem because anything I'm then earning is a bonus, you know, and I can then spend the time in between marketing myself and going on social media and all those sorts of things, and I'm not sitting there chewing my nails off trying to think, oh my God, you know, I've got to pay the bill of X, Y and Z at the end of the week and I've only earned £60, which is a terrifying thought. So that, from that point of view, it is really good. Yeah, definitely a huge benefit. And if you have a bad week, it's not absolutely dire. You know, if you have a bit of a quiet week, there's always random weeks. They don't always seem to sort of add up. So you might have a random week, but for whatever reason is a little bit quieter. Usually it sort of pans out anyway over a year. But, you know, you're not thinking, oh my goodness, you know, I can hardly pay myself anything because I've got to pay for all these other bills first, which obviously have to take priority over what you would pay yourself. So that I would probably say is the top priority, the top best reason to work from home. And it's probably why I originally started. So there's that one. We've got a few more. What else have we got? Childcare. So for me this worked, and it might even be your, you know, if you've not got children, it might be your dog, might be your elderly relative, whatever it might be. It just means that you've got a little bit more flexibility. So obviously if you've got small children or a dog or an elderly relative, you're not going to have them in the room with you whilst you're doing treatments, but it does mean you're near-ish. So what I would have done is, once my children were a bit bigger, so once they were, say, I don't know, something like 8, 10 and 12, it then meant that in the school holidays I could still work through the school holidays. I would have lessened my hours, but I could have still worked in the summer holidays without childcare, because I knew that they would be fine unless an emergency, and they knew an emergency had to be an emergency, not just that, you know, there was no cornflakes for breakfast. They had to have an emergency, like their leg hanging off. Then I would, you know, obviously they could come and knock on the door and I would go and sort it out. I don't think that ever happened in all the years I did it. So, you know, and they got really good at having a quiet little argument to themselves because they knew I was working. So they were really good, but it did then mean I could work a lot earlier than I could have left them on their own. Or obviously you couldn't leave an 8 or a 10-year-old sort of 3 or 4 hours on their own at home. But, you know, you could leave them if they're in a different room and, you know, you're bobbing in and out after each treatment and, you know, having a cup of tea with them or whatever. So from that point of view, it works really well as well, you know. And as I say, you've got that dog, you don't necessarily, they know you're there, so that the poor dog's not sat on its own all day and that sort of a thing. So from that point of view, really good too. So then I suppose I've really got to talk about the bad bits, because they're always, whatever you do, there's always going to be a negative to your positive. So I think my number one for this is people turning up at the wrong time, or on the a couple of occasions, either me or the client has had a bit of a mad moment and we've thought we've booked it in our diary at the right time and we've not. So that can be really awkward, and I have now got to the stage where I have to be quite, I have to give myself a good telling off about not worrying about people coming at the wrong time, because it doesn't really happen now at all. It's just that the doorbell goes on a day you're not working, you're like, oh no, is that a client? And I think no, usually it's a parcel being delivered for one of the kids because they've ordered something. So, and what is the worst thing that can happen? Well, the worst thing that has happened is that I had a migraine. I messaged a client, they turned up anyway because they didn't get the message, and they saw me in my onesie and my slippers. At the end of the day, nobody died, so it was all fine. It's just one of those things, it can just feel a little bit awkward if people turn up unexpectedly. But now I've sort of had the majority of the clients have been coming for ages, and you just work you find out better ways of working so that there's less likelihood of you having that oops moment. So what I do now is also for clients, so that you're less likely that people are going to forget their appointment, is I send out reminders. So that also helps with, oops, we've got our a crossed wire when we was booking it in and it's on a different day. So I can't remember the last time it helped. So sending out reminders helps with that one. The only other one I did used to have is I had a little bit of a sign out in the front of my house, and I did sometimes have people just coming and knocking randomly on the door, which to be fair was probably my own fault for putting the sign up. So since the sign's not been up, I haven't had that, because that's been quite funny on the odd occasion. I remember my mum bringing some shopping into our house, like on a day I don't work, and suddenly turned around because the front door was open and this lady appeared and was like, "You do my eyelashes?" And I was like, "No." And my mum wasn't obviously it was all a bit embarrassing for everyone. Anyway, we got this sorted out on another day. But yeah, so that was that one. So that's a negative, but it can be worked around. And as I say, reminder texts, nearly always sort that one out. Keeping your house clean, or kind of clutter-free sort of, and free of the stuff that everyone has in their house, unless you're a super squeaky clean kind of and tidy person. But most people who've got families tend to have stuff about. So this again is why probably where your room is situated has quite a big benefit as to whether or not you've got to keep your entire house really tidy, and whether that's something that is doable for you and your family, or whether you just need the hallway, which is what I've got. So I've just got my hallway is always nice and tidy as it can possibly be, and my downstairs toilet, and free of clutter. So I haven't got people's shoes, coats, all that. They live somewhere else. Even if it means when I know clients are coming, all the shoes are hurled out of the hallway into the kitchen. So you open the door and there's a pile of shoes, but the clients don't know, so it's all right. As far as they're concerned, it's all nice and tidy. But obviously that can be a little bit of an issue, but to me it's a small issue and it's worth it for all those benefits. So another one is keeping your work and lifestyle balance. What I found was quite difficult is once you get busy, once you start getting a little busier, you have more and more people, and it's really difficult to say no to people. And I think because you work from home, people find it a bit strange that you're not maybe sometimes on call as such the entire time. So that again just means that you need to work with people and sort of be quite strong-minded, in that you work this hour to that hour on this day, and that's it. Unfortunately you're not available on the other days. So that's what you need to do really. You need to get into a habit of it, which to start off with again is really difficult, but over the years you sort of do learn how to do things slightly differently. So I would make sure that unless it's a client that's been coming for ages and ages and ages, and it's a real special event, so they were getting married and they wanted their eyelashes or waxing done at a time that wasn't appropriate for what wasn't my usual opening time, but I might push it if it's somebody that's been coming, and I'm really thankful for all their past custom. But other than that, sort of just try and be quite strong-minded. And the other thing is obviously social media, and trying to put everything that you will be putting onto social media to for your marketing. That again can eat into your evenings and weekends quite easily, so you have to try and be careful and mindful of that, which I'm not always terribly good at, but you have to try. And also replying to messages and stuff like that. So at one time I used to reply to sort of messages and stuff all weekends and evening and stuff. Now I sort of have a cut-off period. I'll reply to people before 8 o'clock in the evening, and then if it's at the weekend or Saturday or Sunday, I'll then leave it to the Monday morning and message people back. So, and they then get used to the fact that that's when they will message. That's when they'll get a reply. And I don't think anyone thinks it's rude. I've not come across anyone that thinks it's rude. And you've got to have a bit of a life. And I don't mind the fact that people send me messages at the weekend, because often it's a good idea that they do it just when they think of it. I haven't got to look at it or act on it. I'll then act on it, on like the Monday. So that's all good. So let me just have another. You have to, I think, right, being professional. I think if you work from home, you have to really kind of up your game on working or appearing professional. And I hope I managed to do this because you're working from home. People can see it sometimes as a little bit of a hobby for you, just maybe a little bit of a pocket money. And that's fine if it is, and that's how you want to work, then that's great. But for a lot of people, myself included, it's my main way of paying all my bills, all that sort of thing. So as far as I'm concerned, this is a proper salon, and I expect to be treated as a sort of a professional person. So I hope to put across that professional image, and then I'll hopefully get that felt back again. So that's that one. So I think the other only awkward one was being self-motivated. I suppose I spoke a bit about that at the beginning. You have to be self-motivated, otherwise it's not going to happen. But the other last one that can be a little bit awkward, but you just have to work with, is the other people you might live with, people, dogs, whatever it is, husbands, kids, whoever it might be. You really have to get them on board. If you're going to start a salon, it's no good if you can't feel confident that they are going to not come into your salon, not bark, not slam doors, all those sorts of things. And we always have those odd moments, I have to confess. You know, there's always I'll be massaging somebody and somebody will shut the door a bit heavily and I'm like, oh, for goodness sake. But, you know, it just happens. And to be fair, if you don't mention it to the clients, they probably are away with the fairies, so they don't know anyway. So just don't point it out, really. But, yeah, you need to have people on board. You need to feel, and the most important one, especially, I do intimate waxing, is like the majority of stuff I do. People have to be confident that if they can hear people next door, they're not going to come in. Nobody wants that. But, you know, my family all do not come in my room. Even if I'm not working, people knock on the door. It just doesn't happen. So they know it's a no-go area. But you have to be confident that everyone else you work with is going to kind of play by the rules. Be quiet. Be respectful of the client, the paying clients. At the end of the day, they're paying the bills. They're putting food on your table. They're, you know, giving you the lifestyle that you want. So if anyone else in your household isn't fully up for it, try and explain it to them from that point of view. You know, that, you know, all the nice things that you've got are being paid for by these people coming into your house. It might be a slight intrusion, but the bigger picture is you're being able to do your job. So I hope that's helped. I hope that's sort of, because it's a big decision. I mean, even with the low startup costs and all those sorts of bits and pieces, you've obviously got a certain amount of getting your room underway. So it is a big decision, but I think there's definitely, for me and for a lot of women, mums particularly, there's a lot of good things about working from home. A lot of good things are. The only other thing I would say that I have heard some other people have problems with is the fact that they don't have work colleagues. Personally, it's only very occasionally I miss having work colleagues. Perhaps I'm a bit of an old misery guts. But I think maybe because, you know, I've got other friends that I can talk to and things. And also there's quite a good online presence of other people working, say on Facebook. I'm on groups and stuff. So if you're feeling a little bit alone working from home, there's lots of things you can go online that kind of make you feel a bit included, so that you can talk to other people doing the same sorts of jobs, which you would never find. You know, they can be in Timbuktu or something, and I'm in the UK, but you could be talking about a very similar problem that you're having, and then they might be able to give you some help or guidance or whatever. So, yeah, for some people, they don't like working from home because being a little bit isolated, but there's ways to work around that, and also, you know, just depends what your personality is like, really. But anyway, so thanks ever so much for watching. If there is any questions or anything you would like to ask me about having a home salon, I'm trying to think of ideas. I've got lots of ideas, but whatever it is that you would like me to talk about, then if you could put them in the comments below, that would be fantastic. I shall see you again soon. Bye bye.